Hi everyone. In today's video, we'll try to code spectral clustering. First, we will read the algorithm from the paper. Then we'll try to code it in Google Colab. So let's start. In my opinion, these are the main two references in spectral clustering. The first reference is on spectral clustering, analysis, and an algorithm. You'll probably recognize some of the names here. Basically, this was authored by Andrew Ng back in 2001. That second reference is a tutorial on spectral clustering by von Luxburg. But this reference is actually a tutorial. It got instructions on how to create the adjacency matrix, how to compute the graph Laplacian, and all these instructions. So this is a more comprehensive reference. But we will use the algorithm in this paper. It's a 6 steps algorithm. The first step, they said, form the affinity matrix A, which is n by n matrix. And it's defined by the exponential function of the differences between two samples. That difference is squared and divided by 2 multiplied by sigma squared. Sigma is a parameter that we select when we do spectral clustering. But before we form the affinity matrix, we have to form the generate the dataset. So here are the references in BibTeX format, and I'm importing some libraries in this cell. Here I'm setting the random seed to 42 for reproducibility, and I'm setting up a dark background for all the plots. I'm using make plops to create the first dataset, which is this dataset here in blue. Then I'm using make circles from scikit-learn to create these outer rings, the ring in green and ring in orange. I'm multiplying by 3 just to increase the radius of the rings. Then I'm concatenating the two datasets together. Here I'm defining the colors just to have a specific colors for all the plottings that follows. And here is the dataset. So let's compute the adjacency matrix. Here is the formula for computing the adjacency matrix. Basically, it's the same formula as in the paper. This formula here. The first step is to compute the differences between all the points in the dataset, which we are doing here in this line of code. But there is a lot going on in this line of code, so I have to explain it using my notes. We got a 2-dimensional dataset. X1 is the first feature and X2 is the second feature. We can compute the differences using nested for loops. We're going through the row dimension, and each time we're going through the column dimension, then we compute that. But it's really inefficient to use nested for loops. But we are doing it this way. First, we are removing the second dimension and we're expanding the dataset along the third dimension. We are doing this. Basically, we're stacking the first feature and the second feature just behind it, just like this. So we're expanding it through the third dimension. And in the second one, we are removing the first dimension and we're expanding it through the second and third dimensions. So basically, we're doing this. We're setting the first feature and we're stacking that second feature just right behind it. So by doing this, once we subtract using NumPy will automatically create an n by n matrix. In our case, it's 1000 by 1000 because we got 1000 points. So it will be 1000 rows by 1000 columns. But this square matrix is stacked along the third dimension. So the first square matrix is the differences along the first feature, and the second square matrix is the differences along the second feature. What we are doing here, basically, we are summing along the third dimension. So these squared matrix, we are taking the sum along the third dimension. So this will give us the differences between all the samples. Then we are multiplying that by -1. And we are dividing this quantity by the 2 times sigma squared. We are setting sigma to 1. And at the end, we are just applying the exponential function to everything. Here we are plotting the histogram of all the values inside the adjacency matrix. On the left, it's all the values inside the adjacency matrix. You can see this peak here. This peak represents the zeros. The zeros means no edges between the samples. So it's very natural to have a sparse matrix as the adjacency matrix because not all points are similar. So if we just limit the y-axis to 7000, we can see that there is a peak at the beginning, which means no edges, and a peak at the end, which represents a very, very similar points. So let's plot these points. We are cutting here 0.9. If we are cutting at 0.9, this is the graph that we're getting here, which basically only connects points in the same cluster. Now we have the adjacency matrix ready. Let's compute the graph Laplacian. We use this formula to compute the graph Laplacian. First, we computed the identity matrix, which has ones along the diagonal. Then we compute the degree matrix, which has the sum of the degree for each point in A. So we are taking the sum along the rows of A. Then we are setting that to the diagonal of the degree matrix. We are filling the diagonal of the degree matrix. Then we are applying the inverse of the square root. At the end, we are subtracting this quantity, D times A times D, from the identity matrix, and this is the graph Laplacian. After that, we are performing eigendecomposition on the graph Laplacian. We are making sure that the eigenvalues or eigenvectors are real values. Then we are sorting the eigenvalues from the smallest eigenvalue to the largest eigenvalue, and we are using this sorting to sort the eigenvectors. So let's have a look at the plot of the eigenvectors. So these are the points in X using the eigenvectors of the graph Laplacian. Just by looking, we can tell that eigenvector 0 and eigenvector 3 are very good for clustering because they separate the clusters. But all other eigenvectors are just messing up the clusters. So our choice is to choose the eigenvector 0 and eigenvector 3 to perform the clustering. Here is a look at eigenvector 0 and eigenvector 3. This is the two-dimensional space formed by these two eigenvectors. Then we are saving these two eigenvectors into a variable called x transformed. And we are applying a standard scalar to x transformed, and we are passing that variable to k-means with the three clusters. After that, we are plotting the x dataset using the colors, the true colors, the ground truth labels, and we're plotting it again using the k-means labels. Here is that we got 100% accuracy on the clustering. One final thing to note here is that the labels of clustering. Here I got very lucky because the true labels actually equals the predicted labels. This is not always the case with the clustering, because by nature clustering algorithms don't have access to ground truth labels, so they might end up with totally different values for the classes. So here is a good example in scikit-learn. So adjusted rand index, the true labels are 0, 0, 1, 1, and the predicted labels are 0, 0, 1, 1. Here the random score will be 1. That's okay. But here's the case. The true labels are 0, 0, 1, 1, and the predicted labels are 1, 1, 0, 0. From a clustering perspective, this is very good job because it separates the clusters, but it got different labels from the true labels. So this is where adjusted rand index better measure than using the accuracy. So in both cases, adjusted rand index is 1 because it basically compares the pairwise assignments for all the points. So overall, don't use accuracy to evaluate your clustering model. There are a bunch of metrics in scikit-learn called clustering metrics that they can evaluate your clustering model. So don't use accuracy because the labels might change. One other note on that, there is an algorithm called Hungarian algorithm. It is usually used to align the labels between the predicted labels and the true labels. But my recommendation is just to stick with these metrics. Don't use accuracy for clustering. So there you have it. If you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe. By the way, you can find the notebook I'm working on in the description below. Thanks for watching. Bye.